why Wisteria 2 was not ready for release. So today I'm going to be describing my personal experience with Wisteria 2, so without further ado, let's get straight into the discussion. So when you load into Wisteria 2, you are immediately greeted with a man standing over you, breathing really hard for some reason. The clan system, unfortunately, is probably one of the worst I have seen in a Demon Slayer game, even worse than Project Slayers. But the clans they did get info for have almost useless buffs like Uzui, which gives you poison resistance, which is almost completely useless because there's only one mob in the game that can even poison you, as of my knowledge. Also, there is a bug where the color of the clans does not match with the rarity of the clan, not to mention the horrible mobile support that the game released with, and is probably not fixed to this day. Exhibit A, the early game of Wisteria 2. So I went Slayer, of course, for my first slide. The way progression works in Wisteria 2 is actually pretty different, as in you aren't immediately beating bandits. In Wisteria 2, you actually have a storyline presented to you, and at first glance it's solid and pretty good until you get to a certain part of the game where it just gets really incoherent and the pacing starts to get really bad. But you talk to Shigeru and then he leads you to go obtain some ramen for him. Once you go to get the ramen, the lady tells you to go beat a pig to death. So once you slaughter the pig and give the ramen to Shigeru, you get to the opportunity to where you're able to get a katana from the wood guy. This quest actually introduced something really interesting where the wood guy fights you randomly during dialogue, which is pretty cool because I've never seen this done before in a Demon Slayer game especially. Then once you give the wood back to the village, you go to talk to Yoshi, who will now level cap the progression to level 5 before you can continue the main story. From here on, you must do side missions from that main village until you are level 5. One of the side missions that actually stuck out to me during this was the one where you had to interact with the local gang in the village, and they tell you to beat up another gang. You beat them up instead, and the dialogue was kind of funny, I guess. But other than this mission, the side missions are quite basic fetch quests or delivery quests, and of course your basic bandit beater stuff. One of the worst quests earlier on is the boar quest, which really shows the flaws of the combat early on. The him boar, he is super buggy. You can easily bug him out where he can't even attack anymore, which then again, every single NPC in the game is badly designed. But once you reach level 5, you can go obtain your breathing, and I chose flame breathing. For flame breathing, you must obtain a package for the trainer to actually allow him to train you. And guess what? You have to be bandaged in order to obtain the package, but it's not too many, luckily. But after delivering the package, you go through the training for your breathing, which is pretty basic and straight to the point. Beat someone up, drag a log to a wall, run to the starter village, and get jumped for some reason. Once you finally get your breathing, you are met with a skill tree, and it's actually pretty decent. I prefer this type of breathing progression. The only problem is the lack of moves that you actually obtain, because most of the skill tree is just boosting the same 4 moves, which is unfortunate. The demon progression is actually not worth playing right now because there is no blood demon arts in the game as of the release. No, those demon mutations that you get are not confirmed BDAs. They are just mutations. But let's move on. Exhibit B, the Mizumi Village Mystery Questline. And this is where Wisteria 2 truly gets bad from a story perspective and game design. Because before the Mizumi questline, the story actually flows quite well. But let me explain why this questline was a disaster. So once you get your breathing, you are introduced to Mizumi Village, a village that is in need of dire help from you, a potential demon slayer. So you talk to Ken, and he immediately sends you on one of the worst fetch quests known to man, as you run around the map for almost 30 minutes straight picking up random samples. This is where my immersion took a serious hit, and the gameplay loop became extremely tedious. Before you are even sent on the worst part of the game, you are tasked with helping 3 village people, and again, the side missions were nothing special here either, but they were serviceable. Again, they were just padding out gameplay for premium payout, just like Project Bugetsu. Once you help the 3 people in the village, you are then set to the worst designed questline imaginable for a video game. The missions have you collect flesh samples for all the different types of demons in the game. The main issue with this questline that when I played it, it was utterly broken because you literally couldn't progress in the game because of some of these missions. For Mijikai, they were just some basic demons that spawned in a specific cave, so it was quite simple unless you didn't know where the cave was. So this part can go from realistically taking 15 minutes to taking almost 2 hours to do while running around aimlessly. The Kyodina part was where it really got bad. The Kyodina demons are rare big red demons that are mainly located in the back of the Boar Cave. The problem was that the back of the Boar Cave was always blocked off by Muzan's barrier. The way you unlock this barrier is by beating every demon inside the cave, but guess what? The demons barely spawn inside the caves, so you couldn't even unlock the barrier, which means you couldn't progress in the game and have to server hop multiple times until they spawn, which could take a very long time depending on their luck. luck. But if you got lucky enough for the demons to spawn, it actually was quite simple, and I heard that they've actually increased the spawn rates, which is good. Luckily, in the same cave where you find the red demons, you can find the Ozamashi demons in there as well, as long as the caves work like how they're supposed to, which half the time for me they didn't. Then once you complete that, you must find the last type of demon in the game, which are hidden in a cave under Mizumi village, which are little crawling demons, and that took me around about 30 minutes of aimlessly walking around to find. Mind you, I never used any guides for the game because there weren't any out when I personally played. In my personal opinion, you should be able to play any game without any guide. It should just be playable. The entity boss you have to do lastly was arguably the most stable boss in the game, but I still managed to glitch him as well, because if you get too far away from his aggro, he bugs out for a little bit and he just stands there taking hits. After you complete this hellish quest line, you can finally do final selection. Exhibit C, the final selection of Wisteria 2. Final selection tasks you with defeating 2 sets of 30 plus demons in waves and 4 wardens. The demon part of course is not difficult because the AI in this game is horrendous and bugs out all the time. The warden part, you can just spam a long range attack skill and the warden will never fully aggro onto you, so you can just keep your distance and spam the same attack over and over and over again until he eventually dies. You can't truly go to toe to toe with the warden because you don't have total constant breathing and can't get it at this point in the game, so you have to rely on manual breathing in order to beat him. But once you do the first 2 nights, the 3rd night tasks you with beating 1 warden as a final boss, which is actually easier than the first 2 sets of the warden enemies, but this time he can actually poison you. Still, he is easy work, so the final selection is basically a joke. The funny part is that my final selection literally turned daytime and killed all the demons. I didn't even have to complete the 2nd night, the game just did it for me. But once you complete final selection, that is practically it for content in the game. Like every other Demon Slayer game, you have a few more missions after that, but it's not much different from what you've already played, and the crow missions are also bugged as well. Exhibit D, the combat of Wisteria 2. Now the combat of Wisteria 2 has potential to be something great if only they added 2 important things: parrying and an M2. Both features would make the combat flow a lot better, and also the hit detection is god awful. You can literally swing your sword right through a demon and nothing will happen. The game is just naturally laggy and buggy, and this kills combat unfortunately because the hit detection and the AI are both a challenge to get around when fighting demons. The demons literally break when you circle around them because they try to make it to where you can't get jumped in the game. So basically the way combat works is one demon will try to attack you while the other group of demons will stand around you, and in theory this is a good idea, but unfortunately the demon chasing you around can also become broken, which causes the entire fights to look like this. The only thing that looks good while fighting in the game is usually the effects, which I can commend them because they actually look pretty good because it looks similar to the anime. Exhibit E, is Wisteria better than Project Slayers, and will it ever be? The short answer is simply probably not. And as of right now, it's just not better than Project Slayers. Wisteria 2 obviously was not ready for release. It literally was delayed 3 hours when it was supposed to initially release on the 22nd. They rushed the game out because they felt like they had to get it out when they announced the date of the game when they dropped the trailer. I don't want to hear in the comments the game is an alpha or the game just came out, because the game had simply plenty of time to bug fix and get the game in a playable state before release. But I mean, they literally tried to bug fix and make a Trello on the release day, so what was I expecting? Literally they didn't even have to drop a release day and it would have been fine. So yeah, Wisteria 2 had a great concept, but unfortunately fell short due to bad management of the story and the combat being heavily flawed. The game is worse than the first game, for crying out loud. But as I say in every video, if you guys enjoyed this video and you would like to see more content like this, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.